Good evening, I'm Barkha Dutt here at the Mojo Story. We continue to keep a focus on the after effects, the tremors that are being felt after the Pegasus leaks. And one of the most disturbing details to have emerged from people who could have possibly been placed under surveillance is the fact that the woman who leveled allegations of sexual harassment against then Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi was also listed as a person of interest. Let's first tell you what we know so far. According to an expose that's been led by 17 different media organizations, like we said, this junior staffer at the Supreme Court who alleged sexual harassment was possibly on the Pegasus list of targets. Why we do not know this conclusively is because her device has not been submitted for forensic examination. But what we do know is that the complainant was listed as a person of interest just days after she submitted a detailed affidavit chronicling how she said the Chief Justice had sexually harassed her. Justice Gogoi at the time had denied these charges and in fact called them a plot against the judiciary and delegitimized the post of the Chief Justice. His position, his denials were upheld by an internal panel of the Supreme Court. Let's remind our viewers that even as 11 numbers linked to the complainant could have possibly been placed under surveillance, including that of the woman's husband and other associates, an internal panel of the Supreme Court had given a clean chit to Justice Gogoi and had said that the allegations made by the lady in question were inaccurate. At that time, she had said that she had lost all hopes of ever getting justice delivered. But now, in the light of these new revelations, activists are saying that that clean chit is under a cloud and the case needs to be re-examined and that the Supreme Court possibly should take the initiative for this. Let me welcome now to the program Vrinda Grover, who is one of our best known and most respected lawyers, but was also the person who had the tough job of representing the woman staffer who made these allegations against one of the most powerful men in India and the most powerful man in the judicial system, then Chief Justice, Justice Gogoi. Vrinda, we do not conclusively know if the person in question, the complainant, was put under surveillance, but we do know that she was on the list of people who could have been placed under surveillance. What materially changes, in your view, about the clean chit, if anything at all? Because the judges who gave this clean chit could argue that whether or not she was surveilled doesn't materially change the examination of her complaint. Can we unmute Vrinda, please, before she reacts?
Right.
Yeah.
First of all, we know that the in-house committee that was set up, which was headed by Justice Bobde, who then became the Chief Justice of India, and two women justices of the Supreme Court, that was according to no procedure. Unfortunately, till date, we do not have a system, a mechanism in place which can actually examine and inquire into allegations and complaints of sexual harassment against a Chief Justice of India. It does not exist on the statute books of India. This was a committee that was set up. She walked out of that committee and an ex parte proceeding continued because all we asked for is, please tell us what is the procedure you are following. Please let her have a support person. Basic norms of natural justice were not adhered to. She left the committee proceedings. This is an ex parte report. So it actually carried absolutely no value even at that juncture. Now what we are seeing is actually what confirms what this, and that affidavit was placed before all judges of the that time present in the Supreme Court. What she did complain of was that there is what was projected in the Saturday hearing, presided over by the person accused, Chief Justice Justice Ranjan Gogoi. What was said is that, oh, this is a larger plot to threaten the independence of the judiciary. And I think the Pegasus revelations actually have, for once and for all, busted that theory, which we always knew was a false bogey, a canard that was projected. And then there was a committee that was set up by another bench of Justice Patnaik to examine precisely this. What does the Pegasus revelation tell us? This kind of spying, surveillance can only be done through state machinery. So there is state apparatus, state power, state money. Who is it joining hands with? What is the nexus that is today being told to us? So the question that arises, one, is that the issue of inquiry, independence of the inquiry, and justice is looming large. And secondly, and very importantly, something that must concern every person on the bench and in the bar and in the country. Who is manipulating and threatening the independence of the judiciary? Now we know who are the powers that were behind this nexus. So should there not be a full-fledged inquiry into Pegasus, and particularly into who ordered the surveillance or may put her and 11 numbers related to her as a person of interest?
Okay, let me ask you a couple of things.
This is what threatened the independence of the judiciary.
Let me ask you a couple of things that people who will disagree with you would raise, and let me just raise those questions. One would be that even at the time, the lady you were representing walked out of the probe, did not agree to be part of the probe. You've just explained because she felt it was. You can't hear me? Can you hear me, Vrinda? Can you hear me? Okay, you can't hear me? Okay, I think what we'll do is we'll just ask you to reconnect. Can you hear me?
Barkha, I can't hear you at all.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to ask Vrinda to just reconnect, and in the meantime, let me actually play through what has happened so far. What we do know is that activists, and you just heard from Vrinda Grover has represented the complainant who made those allegations of sexual harassment against Justice Gogoi. She's saying that that process, that procedure itself was in fact tilted against the idea of fair play. She's arguing in the light of what we know so far, this calls for an immediate review of that clean chit that was given. For those who have forgotten this, a clean chit was given to Justice Gogoi at the time, because Justice Gogoi said that this was an attempt to actually derail the legitimacy of the Chief Justice's office. But we now know that 11 numbers linked to the staffer may have in fact been hacked. And there are those who are actually saying that the Supreme Court should suo moto pick up this case and ask for a re-examination. And that is very important. There are those who are in fact taking it a step further and saying that a lot of the key judgments of Justice Gogoi are also under a cloud now. And we're waiting for Vrinda to actually get back to us, but let's take you through some of those judgments, right? The all-critical Ayodhya land dispute was among the judgments that Justice Gogoi adjudicated on, and there were many others. I can see Vrinda is back with us. I'm very much hoping that you can hear me. And my question to you at that time was quite simply this, that the complainant in this case did not agree to be part of that probe. Now her phones have not been submitted for forensic evidence. Those who disagree with you are going to make the argument that she herself has not wanted the probe to go to its logical conclusion. It's not what I think. I'm just raising with you what was raised at that time.
Yes, no, I know, I understand the question you are asking. The burden is not on her. She has suffered viciously at the hands of an apathetic system, including the highest court, which has allowed this to happen to a woman. There is absolutely no burden on her. It is entirely up to the institution if it wishes to protect itself, if it wishes to protect its integrity, if it wishes for the women of this country and sane-minded citizens of this country to have respect and have any hope of fair play and justice. The ball is exclusively in the court of the court itself, and we know clearly who is manipulating the institution. It's time for the institution to stand up.
Do you expect that at this point, instead of waiting for the government to order a probe into the Pegasus leaks, which I don't think is going to happen at this point because they've been actually shooting the messenger, they've been saying, the Home Minister has said this is an attempt to malign India and so on. Do you think the Supreme Court must take the initiative? And are you hopeful at all that it would?
No, I would not speculate on what the court would do. And of course, the government will not. I mean, why would anybody order a probe into their own, how they've covertly used their power? That never happens. We have the parliament, which is one forum, and the Supreme Court, which is another forum, which is guardian of the rights of the people. And so the court has said, both through its judgments and outside the court, judgments on privacy are not, I assume, written by 9 judges to remain simply words on paper. Freedoms, liberties, privacy has been totally and completely violated and breached. I think both the parliament and the court today needs to definitely take steps to ensure that these rights are actually safeguarded, because they have been compromised and endangered.
Talk a little bit about what happened to this woman after her complaint was dismissed to be inaccurate. We know that her husband and another associate worked with the Delhi police. They were suspended before they were finally reinstated. Now that we know that Pegasus can in fact plant evidence on your devices, does everything come under a cloud, including what happened, for example, with this lady's husband, why he might have been suspended, though at the time the police said the 2 cases and the 2 developments were not connected?
Well, actually, the dates speak for themselves. She was dismissed from service in an inquiry in which she actually couldn't participate because she fainted on that day and was taken to hospital by the Supreme Court staff. This is all a matter of record. And is all listed in the affidavit. Thereafter, her husband was suspended, her brother-in-law was suspended, all had been in service for long years. Another brother-in-law who was given a job out of the discretionary court of the Chief Justice of India was dismissed. Everybody was systematically dismissed after this. And just before her affidavit, what had been the tipping point for her? We all know that women are sexually harassed by many men, including powerful men in all walks of life and in all positions. She and her husband had been implicated and arrested, and she had been sent to jail, Tihar jail, in a case of cheating, that she took 50,000 rupees from a man saying she would get him a job in the Supreme Court and would eventually take 10 lakhs. It's a matter of record before a court in Patiala House, New Delhi, that case was eventually closed. And the complainant comes there and says, yes, I have no problems in the case being closed. How was the case closed? There was an investigation by the crime branch, which said that there had never been any communication between her and the complainant, and there was nothing to substantiate. So all these things suddenly happen, and please see what is going on. The Delhi police, the SHO of Tilak Nagar, the crime branch, one random man who's filing a complaint, all of them are working in tandem. There are inquiries and suspensions. So it is not just happening in one place. An entire system across the board is being manipulated and abused to silence, because this woman needs to be silenced. She finally therefore goes with an affidavit. And what does she get? She gets something which is just to keep an appearance of an inquiry is conducted. And of course, she loses all hope. Then she is quietly reinstated. The inquiry report of 3 judges of the Supreme Court is put in a sealed cover. Nobody has seen it till date. We have asked for it. We have not been given a copy of the report.
So she and you as her lawyer have not been able to see the findings of the panel that gave Justice Gogoi a clean chit.
Absolutely.
And how do they justify that? That violates the Vishakha guidelines, doesn't it?
Exactly. So clearly, some are above the law. Those who make the law do not adhere to the law, do not think they need to follow the law. And the law, they are above the law, is the only inference I can draw. When it was asked for, they said no, the in-house committee report will not be given. The in-house committee procedure, which I again repeat does not apply to the Chief Justice of India, was anyway formulated and envisaged for very different circumstances and much prior to Vishakha and the 2013 Sexual Harassment Statute. The law has changed since. We have the Right to Information Act. So something that has affected me directly, I don't have the copy of. Can I even go ahead in appeal against a report that I don't have access to? Then the Justice Patnaik report comes, set up by the Supreme Court, because there is somebody who comes with a bizarre affidavit saying, oh, this is a larger plot. We hear this very often in this country, a larger plot against the country to defame and malign institutions. Justice Patnaik's report comes, it's put in a sealed cover and put away. All matters are being buried by who? The Supreme Court of India is trying to bury. How many fathoms deep are we burying this truth is the question staring at us in the face today. And quietly she's reinstated. Quietly the husband and brother-in-law are reinstated. So what were the suspensions about? I mean, the answer is staring us in the face, but we do not have the courage to either speak the truth or acknowledge the truth. Who are we saving and what are we saving?
Let me just slightly ask you a variation on this question. If indeed there was communication of any kind between this complainant and Justice Gogoi, and I'm speculating here, some might argue, and I'm bringing this up because there was a rumor, a very strong rumor at one point in Delhi, that there was something that powerful people knew that could embarrass Justice Gogoi. And I'm wondering whether any kind of contact between the complainant and Justice Gogoi, whatever the reason for that could be or may have been, could also have led those in power or people who are influential to have access to Justice Gogoi's phone because of this Pegasus leaks. So it's a loud thought.
Sure. No, there are many such rumors, not just even in the corridors of the court. I have been asked many questions and rumors and told about how she is a honey trap and we know what is going on. Of course, nobody ever substantiates it with any material. And everything is about, people who need to know enough. Well, today the whole country knows what they need to know. So let's just see who is she. She's a junior staffer in the Supreme Court. How does she get to even begin? And every word that I say is written in the affidavit. And therefore it should be tested. She starts working for the office of Justice Gogoi before he becomes the Chief Justice of India on his asking. Isn't that odd? So who is inviting who? She cannot get appointed to his office because of her ranking. He asks for her to be appointed. He then says that he would like her to work for him when he is appointed as the Chief Justice. He invites her husband home. He invites her to the swearing in. All the initiative is taken by him. Within a week of his appointment as Chief Justice of India, Justice Gogoi, Chief Justice of India Gogoi, uses his discretionary quota to appoint her disabled brother-in-law as a junior court attendant. So who is taking the initiative? And well, then there is a quid pro quo that is asked for, which is not provided. And that is when all hell breaks loose. So what is the communication between her and the Chief Justice of India, and before that as Justice Gogoi? These are communications that are on, and all this is detailed again in the affidavit. When he's asking her to come early, he's saying, send me good morning messages. So yes, those communications are there. We have detailed them in the affidavit. If there is any other communication, and we have been hearing about them now for a few years, well, let us see them. Because right now, the independence of the judiciary, and that there are powers in the state who are trying to manipulate, seems to be a matter of very, very grave concern. And the only thing I would agree with here is the title that was given to this matter. It is a matter of great public importance, touching upon the independence of judiciary. So no evidence can be kept away, and it requires a complete, comprehensive, and for once, a fair, independent probe, because it's not about her. The burden is not on her anymore at all.
Okay, I have a last question before we close. Maybe you have all of these misgivings that you have listed, and I really do think it's quite shocking that the findings of the panel that gave a clean chit have not been provided to the complainant. But why does the possibility of surveillance materially change the conclusion of the internal panel, and what do you expect to happen from here onwards?
That's very, very relevant. When does the surveillance begin? Actually, that is the answer. That's where the key to this lies. The surveillance does not begin when she starts working for the Chief Justice of India. The surveillance does not begin when she is actually sexually harassed or she complains of. The surveillance is not during her dismissal. The surveillance is not when she has a criminal case foisted upon her. The surveillance is days after the affidavit is given to all the justices of the Supreme Court. Immediately after that, she is put under surveillance. Who would want her under surveillance then? After all, she has said everything now. Why does she have to be under surveillance now? That is where the truth actually just spills out, and nobody can change that anymore.
So what should happen now?
Well, as I said, it's up to the court, it's up to the bar and the bench, it's up to Parliament. And as a lawyer, I would say it's up to the bar and the bench. Are we interested in the integrity and independence of our institution?
Have you spoken with the complainant in this case, and do we have a sense of what she would like to do?
I think she has suffered enough. We should leave her out of this. She has experienced how brutal power can be, and I don't think she needs to suffer this ever again.
Well, I personally very much hope that the Supreme Court, even if the government does not order a probe, takes it upon itself to reopen this case, because, as you said, it does directly link to the credibility and the independence of the judiciary. And really, it is quite startling. And I had forgotten that, so thank you for reminding me that the findings of that panel had not, in fact, been provided to the person who complained. Vrinda Grover, pleasure talking to you, and we'll follow this case closely. Thank you very much. Take care. And to our audience, thank you. We'll be back with more on the Pegasus leaks and other developing issues tomorrow. See you then. Goodbye. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.